Hello, hello, hello. I think this is working. Yeah, I think that the little bouncy things appear to be bouncing properly. So I hope everybody's doing well. I almost didn't make it to the live stream. I was fishing, which is awesome. My wife doesn't work today, and so we went fish reading, which is like I mentioned last week, where I go fishing and she sits in a chair and reads a book. And since she's normally not home on Sunday, normally she works, my brain was just like, well, this is a day where we can just do whatever we want. And thankfully, a couple weeks ago, when I just completely slipped my mind about the live stream, I set an alarm to remind me. And at 2:45, I was fishing and my alarm went off. And I'm like, what in the world? And then I looked and I'm like, oh, crud. So we packed up and she dropped me off really quick. She is now going to go buy cookies, which has nothing to do with anything on the live stream, but that's where she is going. And then she's going to, she actually agreed to fill in tonight to work tending bar. So it turns out she is going to work tonight, but she isn't doing her normal day job today. So yeah, anyway. I'm here. I made it. It's not like I have a lot to talk about, but it's been a pretty fun week. My granddaughter turned 2 years old yesterday, so that was fun. She got overwhelmed with people and presents, and she was really cranky towards the end of the day. But that's what happens when you're 2 years old and you get overstimulated. Happens to me, and I'm more than 2 years old, but. Yeah, it was a good day. I woke up with a headache, but that's gone now. And like I said, I went fishing. Here in Petoskey, the salmon are running. And it turns out that doesn't mean that they grow legs and run around. It just means they go up the river to spawn. And I guess it's kind of an elongated process. It's not like they have an Apple Watch that reminds them, hey, it's time to go spawn and die. So they're just kind of like starting now. So like people are catching salmon, but it's a little strange because salmon, they're coho and Chinook salmon. And at this point, they're like almost like zombie fish. They spawn and then they die. I mean, they don't go back out to the water. And so when you catch them, it's not the kind of thing you can really eat because they're kind of like starting to decay, even though they're still around. Anyway, it's a weird thing, but they're salmon and they're big and they're fun to catch. So I've been doing that a little bit this week. And although I haven't caught a salmon, I did hook up what had to have been a steelhead, which is like a giant rainbow trout, I guess. And I've never fought anything so hard in my life. It was like lightning on the pole. It jumped like 3 or 4 foot out of the air and ended up spitting out my lure, sadly. So I didn't get to land it, but that was exciting. And so I've gone back a couple times trying to recreate that. Saw something about being interested in kayak fishing. I am. Okay, so I appreciate that. And I have been paddling for pretty much my whole adult life. I met my wife when we both worked at a canoe livery, and I was the guy who loaded the canoes and kayaks on the trailer and drove the bus full of people upriver. But then I was also the guy who, at the time, was not experienced enough that I should have been doing this. But I guess that's what it was like in the 90s. I would also be sent out to not rescue people, but people would often abandon kayaks because they didn't know what they were doing, or canoes, and they'd get stuck under sweepers in the current. And there I'd be in a kayak with a chainsaw. It's hard for me to believe, but it's true. But I do enjoy paddling a lot. And the kind of kayak that I want to get you can barely call it a kayak. I really want to get the Old Town Autopilot 120. It's a 12-foot kayak that's extremely wide and stable and heavy as sin. But it even has a little motor built in, and it's GPS enabled. So instead of anchoring, if you're like in a river or on a lake in the wind or anything, wherever you are, instead of trying to drop an anchor to stay in one spot, you literally press a button and it uses GPS and the motor to like automatically turn and speed up, and it like keeps you in the same spot. And apparently it's really good at it. So that's what I would love to do is get one of those kayaks. Still the kind of, you can still load it in the back of a pickup like one person can still load it and unload it. But it is really heavy. But also, people stand up in them and fish a lot because they're kind of, they're tough to tip over. Not impossible to tip over, but yeah. It is a pricey kayak, which is why I do not have one. I also kind of want one of those little Bass Raider, like that little 10-foot, like 2-person, they're like little chunky plastic boats, but they are extremely stable. I mean, they're very, very stable. And usually they have like a tiny trolling motor on them or something, but I think that would be fun too. Obviously not in any sort of a river though. That's really just like a small lake boat. And we do have a lot of small lakes around. So, I mean, it's not impractical here. Whereas with the really spendy kayak that there's no way I'll be able to buy anytime soon, I could go on some bigger rivers and slightly larger lakes. But let's be honest, I'm going to be shore fishing for the foreseeable future. So anyway, but yeah, that's what I was doing. Almost missed the live stream, but I didn't. Also didn't get a single nibble today, and people started kind of crowding in next to me. Like I cast over to the left a little bit, like, just kind of in front of me, and I was going over to the left a little bit. And so then the guy next to me throws his stuff right in front of me. I'm like, yeah, I think it's about time to go. That's not really my thing. But anyway, a good friend used to be affiliated with Johnson Outdoors. Oh, I don't know what New Canoe is. Obviously, I know what Johnson Outdoors is. I don't know what New Canoe is, but that's cool. I have he's a friend now, but he was my boss for years when I worked at the K-12 school district. And he's a really big paddler. I mean, he even does like some whitewater stuff, but he loves to canoe, like solo canoe, or I think he kayaks too. He really he's a big canoeer though. And I've gone paddling with him a couple times, I think. And it was fun, but we didn't fish. We just paddled. And I really would like to just take a float down a river and fish along it. Because like I said before, I like to watch some YouTubers do that. And yeah, it just looks like a fun day. But I could also picture, like, if the river's kind of swift, like, oh, I'd like to fish there. Oh, that there is gone. So I wouldn't want to have to paddle with a paddle, either a pedal kayak or, of course, the fancy motorized ones. Seem like they'd be more fun. I see people who fish with the paddle kayaks and like trying to back paddle while you're holding a rod in one hand. It just seems like a lot. So anyway, the art center that my daughter and my daughter works at full time and my wife bartends at, they have like somebody I'd actually heard of today. Has anybody heard of Michael Carbonera, like the magician? I think he's an illusionist, magician. I don't know all it is. I think he had like a television show at one point. It turns out that's who is performing tonight at the art center where my family works. And the seats were almost sold out. There were no 2 seats left next to each other. And I had, and then my wife, volunteered to work because somebody called in. And they said, oh, you could go, but I don't really want to go like sit alone. That doesn't sound fun to me. So I'm just going to hang out here. I'll probably walk down maybe and go fishing or something. A little evening fishing, I think, is a better time anyway. Early morning or late at night. Lewis, hello. Good to see you. Susquehanna smallmouth fishing. Yeah, I've heard that name before. So I believe that it's probably significant. The YouTuber I watch, and I've linked his channel before, but it's Creek Fishing Adventures. It's John D something. He's just a fun guy to watch. And yeah, he goes to, he's a full-time YouTuber, so he just travels around fishing, and he'll fish in like little urban creeks next to Walmart, and he'll, take his kayaks out, up to Wisconsin for fishing, and like, he does tournaments and stuff. It just looks fun. And the way that he fishes kind of seems fun to me. He'll just float down a river in a kayak and, and fish off either side. And yeah, that seems enjoyable to me. But not sadly, alternately, otherly, in a change of topically, this week is when I have to start teaching on Kubernetes, and I still haven't quite got my brain wrapped around Kubernetes and Google Cloud. So wish me luck there. I think because it's so like it's such this weird thing. Like I understand containerization and I understand the clustering thing, but I feel like I'm missing something with Kubernetes. So I think I'm actually, even though the skill I'm creating is specific to Google Cloud platform, I think I'm going to include a skill on like what is Kubernetes, and then I'll teach about the specifics of Kubernetes in Google Cloud because yeah, it's interesting. Dwayne, yes, John Dalton, yeah, that's him, and yeah, it is. I do. I think he's a fun person to watch fish. Oddly enough, so yeah. Oh, Lewis thing. Okay, yeah. I haven't. I still haven't done much on Twitch. I hate to do it. Whiskey and Cigars, thank you. I appreciate that very much. I enjoy making content and hope to be able to do that again soon. But yeah, I mean, I'm making content now for CBT Nuggets, but that's not on YouTube. So I'm still allowed to make YouTube content. I just haven't had the time. But love Kubernetes and Docker. I just finished an intro into Jenkins. Oh, that's cool. And that's the thing. I use Docker every day. I use Docker for everything, and I have not set up Kubernetes. And the pieces that I feel like I'm missing, I mean, Kubernetes is a containerization, cluster management stuff, but it doesn't have to be Docker, but then it seems like it always is Docker. So I don't know. I still have a few pieces to put together. And then like I said, I think that first skill that I'm going to put into this Kubernetes training is going to be not Google Cloud specific, just like what the crap is Kubernetes, because I think that's a fair thing that people may want to understand before they go into the specific brand of Kubernetes that is inside the Google Cloud platform. So anyway, Dwayne, I can hook you up with a guy who would take you on the Okefenokee with all the alligators. Yeah. So my son-in-law's from Florida. And yeah, he grew up, fishing in Florida, and it's a whole different ball game, right? I mean, you actually literally have to be careful. Like you can't just bend over and jump in the, to grab a fish or whatever. You have to be careful because there could literally be alligators there. That's just crazy. You're a software engineer, did a cybersecurity university boot camp. Oh, okay. Yeah, DevOps is kind of like you almost have to know something about DevOps in order to even work in IT these days. But yeah, so my background is not development. So the automated administration part of DevOps, I love, like Ansible is my jam. But when it comes to the programmatic manipulation of stuff, that's where it starts to get fuzzy for me. So I need to figure that out. Everything is Ansible these days when it comes to orchestration and stuff. But then there's just like cloud computing in general, right? Where so much code includes the management of stuff. It's just this weird, DevOps has become ubiquitous with what it means to do computing. So yeah, I don't know. When it comes to administration though, yeah, Ansible is kind of king, and it makes sense. I've always preferred Ansible because it's like a well done, debugged, tried and true version of all the crazy bash scripts that I used to write to try to make things happen. Right? I just feel like it's the sysadmin's bash scripts, but done properly. So anyway, Kubernetes can be with Docker or Podman, and I'll be honest, I don't even quite understand all the differences between Podman and Docker, because there's so much overlap that it can be it can be confusing. And then there's the LXD containers, which is a whole different idea, but also really neat technology and still called containers. So yeah, I don't know, like if you use Proxmox the LXD containers that they have are just great. You know, if you need to spin up a server, you can just spin up a little container instead. And for almost everything, not everything, but almost everything, it's just an incredible, super efficient way to have like a fully running system that really isn't a fully running system. So, but I digress. Blake Moose, hello. Lewis, I've done a course on Ansible and another one on Kubernetes. Nice. I just have to, I've figured out enough to teach it, and I have to do a lot of teaching on it this week. So, Docker's in, oh, okay. Podman is in user space. That's interesting. I mean, that's cool. No, is that, but correct me if I'm wrong, they can still still similar format stuff and all that. Like they can launch each other. Like, I mean, are Podman containers or images or whatever drastically different or the same? Those are the things where I need to make sure that I have a full understanding of before I just start teaching it and pretend I know all the things. But yeah. Again, I think I'm going to be surprised at how much of it I already do know. I just thought there was more to it than there is. And I'm a little bit surprised that it seems like Docker Swarm is something that never really got popular. And it seemed to me that was going to be awesome. So anyway, they're containers. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're containers, but I mean, as far as like creating them, because like, to create Docker images that, you know, are then spun up into containers, you know, it's very specific stuff. So, oh, interesting. Podman doesn't do anything with networking. Yeah, see, I just need to understand these things better. And I will, and I'll get it, and I'll teach it. And when people watch my course, they're going to think, wow, this guy's been doing it for years. And it's like, no, he's just been doing the other stuff for years. So once I get it, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not as difficult as it seemed. I just have to get to that point pretty quickly. And let's see what else is happening. That's my week coming up. I mean, that's what I'll be doing morning to night all this week, because Thursday is the last day of the pay period. I need to have 3 completed skills. So yeah, I hate that it ends up always every pay period for me feeling like a cram session, but it's that I can't teach stuff until I learn it. So I have to learn the first part, and then, oof. Docker has just said it will be putting up some prices by 80%. Oh, yeah. I saw that Jeff Geerling mentioned something about Docker doing that, but I mean, I don't know who that's for, like for people who are publishing on Docker Hub, and I don't know the nuances of that, since that's not really the world that my extent of using Docker is usually dealing with pre-made images that are available on Docker Hub, and then that's it. So, and Lewis, I appreciate that, and I might have to if I get stuck somewhere. Podman can run in rootless mode. Yeah, and that's the thing. I hear people talk about like, oh, Podman, and you can do it almost the same. It's just, you know, a couple different things, and that's fine. So it must be very similar under the hood, apart from, you know, the concept of user space versus root. And I get that. You know, that's obviously more ideal depending on what situation you're running in. I mean, if you're just spinning up Docker containers in a VM that only exists to run that Docker image, then it's, you know, it is what it is. But okay. And is it? I always thought that if you worked hard, you could make Docker run rootless, but maybe not. Maybe it just has to, like, that user has to have root access. You could like make it so that only certain users could do it, but they still have root access. So I don't know. I've always just demonstrated Docker with the root user because, you know, the actual Docker mechanics part of it, that's how it usually runs. So anyway, that's interesting. I might have to learn Podman. Maybe I'll be a Podman convert. We'll see. Maybe I'll be a Kubernetes guy. I mean, if you know, Techno Tim, he's on all the major streaming platforms. He's on YouTube, and he's also on Twitch. Techno Tim, I know, runs Kubernetes on his home lab. I don't. I just run I just run a couple different Docker servers, and then I have Docker containers running on them. So we're going to sell our farm. Have I talked about that? I'm sure I've talked about that. My middle daughter and her husband closed on a house. So they bought a house. They closed on Friday. They get occupancy. It should be this Friday, and then they'll be moving out of the farm. And we're going to sell the farm. It's just not practical to keep it. And that means that I'm going to have to move my little micro data center because the fiber is out at my farm. And if we sell it, I can't very well keep my stuff there. So I think what we're going to do, I talked with my oldest daughter and her husband. They live in a rural area that also has the same internet provider that has that same fiber optic stuff. And so I think I'm just going to use the corner of their garage, put my server rack there, and then I will pay for internet service and provide them with free internet service, for their house and garage and everything. And then in turn, they'll let me run my servers there. And, they pay for the electricity in the server rack, and then I provide them with internet service. So it should be win-win, but moving is going to be interesting. And I recently, very recently migrated my email. I was hosting my own email server, and I really liked having the control and having the power to do that. But I switched this weekend, partially partially because we're going to be moving, the data center, and not having email during the transition doesn't seem wise. And so I switched to, it's a little complicated, but it's free, oddly enough, as long as I don't have a ton of email going out. But I am using Cloudflare for my DNS provider. And so they have this really cool email forwarding service where they can just forward properly with the proper headers rewritten and stuff, forward incoming mail to any domain to like a Gmail account. So I'm just having all of my email now forwarded to one Gmail account. And then for outgoing mail, I could just use Gmail and do like an alias, but I want it to be actually like real, coming from, the proper email stuff. So I set up Mailgun as my SMTP server. And as long as I have 1,000 emails or less every month, it's free. And so that's what I did. So now all of my email goes to Gmail, which I don't love not having a secondary backup, but I figure I could probably forward all incoming mail to like a secondary server just so I have it all. But anyway, that's what's been happening there. So my email server is not even turned on now at my farm. So I'm kind of getting ready for the transition. We'll see how it goes. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a bunch of messages. Dun, dun, dun. Learn Linux. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I still love Linux. It's weird not teaching Linux at CBT Nuggets this time. Lewis, I have a DM. Okay, there it is. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that last message from you too. Yeah, I mean, I won't call you out for, the DM, but I'll tell you what, it just knowing is a huge boon. I think you'll find. So, how was that for cryptic messaging to everybody else? You know what? But it's so funny. I've been using that joke for so long. I said, well, my wife and I bought the farm, but literally, and nobody else has really laughed at the joke, but it always makes me chuckle. And so, yeah, and that's the thing. Like Dwayne replied, hopefully someone will. And I'm still not positive on the value of it. That's the thing that's difficult. If you just go by Zillow, and for those not in the U.S., I don't know if Zillow is a international thing, but it's just a real estate website. And they'll do like a Zillow estimate, like what they think it's worth. And it's, worth, a lot more than what we paid for it. But most people who I've talked to think that the Zillow estimate is way underpriced because it has all new plumbing in the entire farmhouse. It has a new high efficiency furnace. The barn has been completely insulated and sealed up with new wood floors and wood walls and lights and power and all sorts of stuff was done in the barn. And so think that the value of it's going to be higher, but I'm grateful we have a friend who's a realtor and they're going to do all of the money stuff because that's just not my forte. Let's see. Yeah, Blight Moose. Yeah, I know. I think it's a great joke. Northern Sham, couldn't you clone your server to a VPS the time of the moving? I could. The problem, though, particularly with hosting your own email, is the email. I mean, it has to have reverse DNS. So a lot of VPSs, you can't do a PTR record. But even if you can, almost every VPS provider has a very, very, very low reputation and are on most spam lists for email, because what a spammer does is they'll get a VPS and they'll install email software and they'll send out a bajillion emails, spam. And so if you have an IP address from a VPS, generally you can't run your mail server on it because just by it being in the IP pool of that VPS provider, it's going to be blacklisted on like every spam list there is out there. So it's difficult to get a clean IP address. And then when you do move your email, there's like servers look at how recent the MX record was changed and stuff. It's really complicated on how they try to limit spam, and moving servers is something that causes issues. And so I do, my reliability rating on my email has dropped a little, but since I'm using something big like SendGrid, I'm hoping that my email reputation increases, and it should be fine as far as like the total. Like it's free, like I said, for up to 1,000 emails a month, and I can put, I think, up to like 200 domains, which I don't have 200 domains, on there, and it should just work. And they handle all of the like the DKIM rotating stuff. It's really nice. I have to, as much as I like hosting my own, it's pretty nice to have somebody else worry about all the maintenance that comes along with hosting your own email server. And then since all of the email is since all the email is directly forwarded to Gmail, I get the advantage of Gmail spam filtering for incoming mail too. I was using MX Guard Dog, which worked okay. But it's two things are wrong with that. It's kind of slow. Like there's like a, 3 to 5 minute delay on incoming emails, which is really a problem if you're waiting like for a code to get emailed to you. And it didn't catch all the spam, like not nearly as good as Gmail spam filters. So anyway, I'm so far, I mean, it's only been one day, but so far it's been pretty solid using the combination of Cloudflare's email forwarding and SendGrid's outgoing SMTP servers. So let's see. Lewis, yeah, I feel you. And if you want to talk offline about it, yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, just understanding is huge. Bite Moose, we have Zoopla over here for House of. Oh, okay. It's so funny. That's pretty close to Zillow. Dwayne, hire an appraiser. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, the problem with appraisers, and samples and tests, how much are appraisals? How much are they? I don't know, a few $100s. But here's the problem with doing an appraisal. Appraisals are usually conducted when the house is like going like to close, right? Usually the mortgage company will hire an appraiser to appraise the home to make sure that the value of the home matches what people are trying to borrow in order to buy it. But that's the issue. An appraisal almost always comes in at the asking price, which is super annoying. It's great when you're buying a house because, hey, that's how much it appraised for? Well, that's exactly how much we're paying for it. Wow. The problem is it's not really like judging based on anything other than, okay, so this is the asking price. And then the appraiser has to look for other comparables around the area that are about the same kind of house for about the same kind of price. So I don't think appraisals are really all about value all that much. Yeah. So yeah. Northern Chimp. Yeah. I mean, you've been here long enough. Nerdy stuff like that is something that I love talking about. And that's one of the reasons I actually really enjoyed hosting my own email. Part of me is sad that I'm not doing it now, but like I read Kyle Rankin's book on hardening servers and stuff to learn all the nuances of setting up my email server. But the one thing that you just can't like configure away is that crazy IP stuff. It has to have a reverse DNS record. And I had to get commercial grade fiber at my farm in order to do that. They wouldn't do a reverse record for residential. And it has to be a clean IP, which was really like, thankfully, the IP range that our local fiber internet provider has, thankfully, they're clean IP addresses, and they weren't all like, they didn't just buy them from a company that had VPSs or something, because then they would have been blacklisted. But thankfully, they were not. Some of the IP addresses that I have are very usable. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to go with the same level of service. I have 5 static IP addresses and the commercial grade gig fiber, but it's $300 a month. And I'm thinking maybe I don't want that much when it comes to, like, especially if I'm not going to rehost my email. Maybe I can get away with just having gigabit fiber and 1 static IP address. So anyway, I'm thinking through that. We'll see how that goes. I don't regret that I currently have the expensive and kind of awesome service, but I just might not need that going forward. Email was really the big reason that I needed more than 1 IP address, because you want your email, so it doesn't have to be, but you want your email server to be on its own IP address so that other traffic, or like if somebody in your house is using that IP address for outgoing stuff and they start, they're infected and they spam stuff, well, then that IP address is going to get blacklisted. And so if it's your email server's IP address, well, then you're out of luck. So like I wanted a separate IP address for it. Yeah. If I keep the same service, I'm 100% sure I could. If I keep the same service, since it's the same company and the same rural internet and electricity company, I am positive that they could just reroute it over to where my daughter and her son live. And, it would be a matter of, literally hauling the servers and plugging them back in, and then everything would be fine. So I might just do that. I don't know. Probably what I'll do is compare the price of that to just having 1 static IP address, and make sure I know the difference between their commercial grade and their residential grade. I think with the commercial grade, I'm just guaranteed the bandwidth, and I'm not necessarily with the residential grade. So anyway, I have a public IP here at home. It hasn't changed it in a while. Yeah. It's funny that you say that too, because here in town, I can't get the fiber internet. It's funny. I live in the city, and the city doesn't use that rural electric company, and that rural electric company are the folks who ran their own fiber optic cables. Actually really cool. So I can't get it in town here. So I am just on Charter or Spectrum or whatever it is, internet with cable modem. And yeah, my IP address, I've had this service here for, 3 years, maybe 4 years. And I've gotten a notification that, from my, I use dynamic DNS just on my router, and I got notification once that it changed. And that's it. Like one time in the past, 2 or 3 years that it's changed. And I mean, I can use the dynamic DNS and I could do that for, I could even not have a static IP address, but I really want to have a static IP address if I'm going to actually serve file. I mean, like serve web pages and stuff. And, again, it's possible with a dynamic address, as long as you update those DNS records, and they have a short TTL, it should be fine. But I don't know, just having a static address seems smarter. So anyway, that's what I'm going to I'll price out the difference and see. I mean, if it's not going to be saving that much money, I'll probably just keep the exact same thing I have and come up with a reason for having that level of service, even if I'm not hosting email. And I still haven't set up the notifications. Somebody did something on Twitch, so if it was something nice, thank you. But whatever the notification was, it popped up over on my other computer, but I didn't hear it. So yeah. With Fios, Verizon, I have Fios. I don't know how to say that word. I've noticed the IP address changes once every 6 months to a year. Okay. With cable modem, it changes every few weeks. Wow. Yeah, here again, cable modem here, and it's changed like one time over multiple, like 2 or 3 years. And I think another time it changed when it went down. Like we had a big outage, and when it came back up, I think I got a new address. But just changing is very, very, very rare. Glad you have Facebook, and I just joined your Discord. I'll follow your content. Oh, hi. It's good to see you, Whiskey and Cigars. Over here as well. Yeah. I do, and I forgot. Yeah, I am streaming this to Facebook as well. So, yeah, awesome. Glad you found there. And yeah, the Discord, I haven't been there as much as I used to. That kind of was our central landing place. And, yeah. Oh, now that's interesting. And I did not know that. Fios is Portuguese for wires. That's hilarious. Especially since it's literally, I think isn't Fios or whatever, isn't that their fiber solution? So it's literally the one thing that isn't wires. It's, I don't know why that amuses me so much, but it does. Anyway, okay, Kuya, and I may be saying that wrong, and I apologize if I am. But also, so I don't know which Facebook. It's probably this Facebook page that I stream it to. But there are live streams Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, early mornings for me, 7 a.m. Eastern time in the U.S. One of them I draw my comic. 2 of them are still trying to figure out exactly what the format's going to be. But Thursdays I draw my webcomic during there, and the other 2 days are kind of like this. But I don't stream to my main YouTube channel. I stream to my secondary YouTube channel. It's always on Twitch, and then I think I put it on this Facebook thing. Otherwise, it could be on my personal one. I don't know. I'll try to remember to always put it on this one, though. Makes more sense anyway. But yeah, Fios, not File. Okay, so Fios. I appreciate that. And now, what I don't know, though, Lewis, is that the Portuguese word? And if so, is it the same as Verizon? Does Verizon also say Fios? I don't know. They probably do, though. I can't imagine that they just coincidentally made up a word that is so closely related to what they're doing. But anyway. I can't think of other exciting stuff. I'll be honest, the Kubernetes thing is a little scary for me, but I'll figure that out. Yeah. And when the transition happens, and it'll probably be long before we sell the farm, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't make sense to wait until it sells. I could move the stuff to my other daughter's house, before the snow flies. So it'll be this fall. And the only things that should go down would be web pages. I'm trying to think, like, what all do I host? All the mail or the newsletter I host, but that would be, that shouldn't be a big deal. And just websites, like all of my websites are hosted at the farm. But now that email isn't, that's a big thing. I can't think, what else am I hosting? I feel like there's a lot more stuff that I'm hosting. I mean, obviously all of my internal, like, cameras and security stuff, but that wouldn't affect anybody in the outside world. So, I guess all my short links, they'll fail. Anyway, I'll try to figure it out. But yeah, hopefully the downtime wouldn't be too long. Fios and Rakuten is very similar in Portuguese. Interesting. Oh, Fios is a Spanish word. All right. Kubernetes has a concept of pods rather than standard unit. And a pod can have multiple containers. Yes, and then the pods exist on multiple cluster nodes. If I believe, like you have nodes, and inside the nodes are pods, and the nodes are part of a cluster. And the cluster can grow like larger. And I don't remember, and I haven't learned the individual nuances of that. But I have to learn the Kubernetes side. And then in Google Cloud Platform, it gets crazy because they have different levels of like automatic Kubernetes. Like they'll do, what do they call it? Autopilot mode, where they shrink and grow everything on their own. And then they have like manual mode where you do it, but like they just create virtual machines for you on the fly and grow and shrink. So it's interesting. And that's why I think it's worth talking about Kubernetes separately from how it's handled in Google Cloud Platform. Because I know that, Google came up with Kubernetes, but it's different. I mean, that's Kubernetes in the Google Cloud Platform is a different beast altogether than just Kubernetes. I mean, you can run Kubernetes anywhere. It's just, software that you run on servers, but they have special cloudy integrations and all that jazz. So you find out everything that is hosted when you kill a link. This is you're not wrong, Bite Moose. That is exactly correct. In fact, yesterday I shut down my mail server. The machine itself is still running, but like I shut down Postfix and I shut down Dovecot and I shut down like the Milters and stuff that were running. And I am sure that there are devices, like probably not external devices, I don't think, but like software that I have running that if it needs to send email, I would have just pointed it directly to my internal mail server, because why wouldn't I, right? It was perfectly valid. And if they're on the same network, I wouldn't even have to worry about authentication, because I just said, I made that one of the rules. If it's coming from the internal network, just accept it, which would have been unsafe if people were like connecting to my internal network, but they weren't. So anyway, but yeah, so I'm sure that I'm probably missing notifications now, and I'll have to go through all of the web packages that I, have installed, but that'll probably be part of the move, right? I'll like figure all that stuff out when I move too. So, I missed one. Oh, Morton, high powers. What syslog server are you? I'll be honest. I have not centralized any syslogs, and I should have years ago, but I just haven't. I just, just the standard syslog server on every one of my servers. When there's an issue, I go to that server and like grep the log files. I have not done any, I haven't DevOpsed my log files yet, which again is not great. But yeah, it's truth. It's the truth. It is what it is. If I did, I would probably have great notifications about like where me shutting off my mail server has affected things, because there's probably logs full of errors just trying to tell me, hey, your email server is not responding. So anyway, but it'll be fun. The nice thing too, Bite Moose, and you find everything that's hosted when you kill the link. That it's also for that reason that I wanted to migrate email away, because even if I can keep the same IP address and it's only down for a short time, not having any email during that time is a very unsettling thing. So should I have just had all of my email on my internal servers anyway? No, and I had external MX servers, that would queue up email if, my site went down or something. But just having it hosted elsewhere, I don't know, makes sense. Lewis, the best solution for logs is probably ship them to an external service like Graylog. Yes, absolutely. And that, like I said, that's just something that I haven't done. But having all of your syslogs go somewhere else certainly is a great way to be more likely to see when things are going wrong, to be a proactive sysadmin instead of a reactive one. And in fact, I'd probably have to rely a lot less on all of my Like I have Uptime Kuma notifications. Uptime Kuma is an open source version of like Uptime Robot. And I have tons of notifications where they check services remotely. And I have several VPSs and they'll like check all of my services that are running. Like, are they up? Are they not up? And then I'll get, I use pushover.net for notifications. So I get like instant notifications on my cell phone when something goes offline. So yeah, if I had centralized log files, I might not depend on those notifications quite so much, but it is what it is. It was fun to install and configure Uptime Kuma and pushover.net. So I don't really have regrets there. The funny thing is though, so I have Uptime Kuma installed on, it's actually one of my VPSs from Oracle. Oracle has a very generous free tier of instances in their cloud, like the Oracle cloud. It's like a 24 gig server. It's using their ARM-based technology, so it's like 24 gigs of RAM and like 100 gigs of storage. It's like shockingly good, and so I have Uptime Kuma running there. But my thought was like, who watches the watcher? And so I also have another VPS from, it's just some small VPS. It cost me $3 a month from a company in Canada. Anyway, I use that one though, and it has Uptime Kuma installed. It's a very small server, again, very cheap, but the only thing it monitors is the Oracle server. So if the Oracle server goes down, I get notified from that small VPS, and the Oracle server actually monitors all of my other stuff and notifies me. So yeah, it was a funny situation, and I didn't realize it was a problem until Oracle had a glitch where like their instances were offline. And I did get an email saying, hey, we're having network problems and, the servers are now offline. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to get any notifications now because that's where my notification server is. So that's when I set up a who watches the watcher kind of Uptime Kuma. There's probably a way I could do it, because you can do like notifications that, like, I could probably query something, and then if it stops getting the query from the internal Oracle server, then it would just notify me. But I don't know, it was just as easy to set up a second instance of Uptime Kuma on another computer. Nobody even asked me that, and here I am going on and on about it. But yeah. I used to host stuff here at the house, but the problem is the fastest possible upload speed I could get is 30 megabits, and that's not sufficient for hosting stuff. So I stopped hosting stuff here, especially when I could get that gigabit fiber commercial grade, and we'll see what the prices are. Maybe I'll just keep it. I don't know. But no regrets on moving the email so far. The likelihood of Cloudflare completely going bonkers or SendGrid going completely offline are much lower than my data center going offline. So I'm pretty confident there. And even if I do start to send more emails, like I also use SendGrid for my newsletter. And so there's, a couple hundred emails that go out when I send out an email, and that goes against the 1,000 emails a month. But even if I go over the 1,000 emails a month, it's like a tenth of a cent per email past that. So it's not going to be a really big bill at the end of the month. So SendGrid seems to be pretty decent. But anyway, 500, 100 here. See, that's nice. I still, in the world of people having gigabit connections, probably 100 megabit upload wouldn't be ideal for hosting, web pages that get a decent amount of traffic. But really the reason, I want to have decent throughput, but more than anything, I just like managing my own servers. And yeah, you do have a Nextcloud server for the family. Nice. I don't know what image instance is. I don't know what that is, but Nextcloud, I tried to set up Nextcloud. it works great for some things, but some of it was really kludgy and I didn't like it. So I didn't use it. I know Kyle Rankin uses Nextcloud for his family as well. And, they use it for everything from calendaring to file sharing and all that stuff. And that part works good. I did use Nextcloud I think I used it as the address server, like the vCard server, the address book server for my web email client. I think because it's just some internal LDAP server, but it was already all set up really nicely. But that was all that I really used it for. I still have it running. Probably needs to be updated. I haven't even logged in months, but I don't have anything really important on there. So fiber to the home for less than $44. Oh, see, that's nice. And it's just a Google Photos clone. That's cool. That's cool. I do pay for extra Google storage, especially since I forward my email to there. But I don't necessarily use much of the storage, I find. Like I think I have I don't know what I have, a terabyte, but I feel like it came with something else. I was hoping that I could like bundle it in with my YouTube Premium, because I do pay for YouTube Premium, and I'm really happy with YouTube Premium, to be honest. No ads on YouTube is just great. I love it. But I think I pay once a year for extra storage in Gmail because I was running out of space, and it was really annoying. So anyway, and it's not unlimited. You used to be able to do unlimited space, but now you can't anywhere in Google. There's no such thing as unlimited storage anymore. And I was hosting all of my media on like different cloud unlimited storage plans. Like there's some unlimited storage plans on box.com, but then their API usage is so restricted that it's not fast enough to use it as an actual file system. And then Dropbox worked well, but so many people moved to Dropbox that they wouldn't give you unlimited storage. They would give you like 1 terabyte additional storage every 6 months, even though you're paying full price for unlimited. So I was very, very frustrated for that. You don't pay for any Google services. So is this like a Google Workspaces account, like for work kind of thing, and not a gmail.com address, Lewis? Because I have that at work, and I don't know what kind of storage we have there, but I don't use it for anything that's not work. Not because I would get in trouble for it. I mean, they haven't told me not to use it for other stuff, but I just haven't since I've been back. Let's see. Don't see ads either. Oh, got you. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. I think that's, you can technically see YouTube without ads using ad blocker stuff that like they keep trying to combat, but they usually keep, extensions work around it and it just works. But, I like having the YouTube Premium, and I don't use the YouTube Music, but it is part of YouTube Premium. I probably should. I mean, I'm paying for it. I should just use that. But we also have Apple Music, and the rest of my family uses Spotify, and so we have a family subscription to Spotify. I very rarely use Spotify, but it is what it is. Let's see. I have 19 gigabytes for my own, 250 gigs for my domain, Google Old Workspaces. Okay. Yeah, I had 15 gigs is all that we had for a personal Gmail account. And where's my browser? Oh, I'm literally on the browser. But now I don't remember. I think it's is it one.google.com? Like, I'm trying to think what the name of... Yeah, you pay for more storage. Oh, it looks like I have 2 terabytes of storage, and I'm using 1% of it. But I was using it for backups, I think, as well. I don't know what other, but I was running out of email storage space. That was a big thing. I guess I can store all my photos there, and they're not quality shrunk or something. Anyway, it is what it is. You do pay for Spotify. Yeah, that's what my family uses. I don't listen to music a whole lot, if I'm being completely honest. So it's not that Spotify is bad or anything like that. My family really uses Spotify the most. I have tried to use like Apple Music because we have that as well. And it's just not as nice to like get around and like find stuff. And I find that odd. Apple normally doesn't do things first, but they normally do them really well when they do them. And Apple Music has just not been all that great. So anyway, Spotify does a decent job, and we are almost out of time. I see that. But let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else happening. No, just this week it's going to be Kubernetes Town for old Shano, but I will still do the morning live stream. So if you're around and you want to hang out on the live streams Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings. Still don't have a format for Tuesday and Wednesday, but Thursday I'll be drawing another comic. I don't even have an idea what that comic is going to be. I kind of thought of it the night before last week, but it's fun. And I don't have a vehicle, so I can't go fishing while my wife is at work. Well, that's no fun. I could walk down, I suppose. But, yeah. Hey, yeah, thanks, everyone. I do appreciate you tuning in on Sundays. I always look forward to talking to everybody. And, yeah, I hope I can figure out Kubernetes. I'll be completely honest because, yeah, you're right, Lewis. I know for a lot of you, the 7 a.m. is not morning. So I'm like here, like punch drunk from not having digested enough coffee yet. And y'all are halfway through your workday. But nonetheless, it's the only time that I can consistently know that I'll be there. Because my wife, when she goes to work, she has to work at 9:30. So if I'm done with live streaming at 8, I can help her get ready and make her breakfast and pack her lunch while she's getting ready and stuff. So it's really the only time that I can be confident that I'll be available. So it is what it is. It's not a great time for most places because it's 4 a.m. on the West Coast here. So, yeah. Be here Tuesday only. All right, fair enough. Well, I will be here at the next live stream will be 7 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, and wish me lots of luck. I guess I can close it down now rather than hem and haw for another couple minutes. Morton, you moved to Spotify because it closed down the Google Podcast. Yes, they did, and I thought that was weird that they closed down Google Podcast. But anyway, the Apple program for podcast is not too bad. But also, let's see what did I use? I can't remember what I used. I think I even paid for it, like a one-time pay. It wasn't Pocket Cast. Maybe it was Pocket Casts. I don't know, some other program I used for podcast. Now I just use the Apple Podcast, and I don't listen to a ton of podcasts either. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone, and I will be back around. And yeah, S. Lee, hello from Oregon. It's good to see you. I'm so sorry if you just tuned in because I'm about to close the stream down. But if you're around at 7 a.m. Eastern, if you're in Oregon, you're not going to be around 7 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday. But nonetheless, we'll be back here next Sunday and the morning live streams, and I'll see everybody else online somewhere. Have a great week and wish me Kubernetes.